Chapter 19. We're not related. Elliot burst out as soon as Daisy opened her door. An incredibly smooth and charming thing to say when you pick up a woman for a date. Well done, Elliot. I know, she said with a smile. Come in, I'm almost ready to go. They were supposed to be headed to karaoke night at the pub, which he'd only agreed to when Daisy assured him that he didn't have to sing, you know? Yeah, I talked to my grandmother, and she assured me that Great Aunt Daisy never had children. Oh, good. What did you find out? Daisy asked, grabbing a sweater from the hook by the door. After looking through some ancestry stuff and talking to my mom, I think the man in the picture is a cousin of my great-grandfather. So, I wouldn't be a direct descendant of his. So that means we're definitely not related, right? Daisy was watching him, looking like she wanted to say something, but was fighting the urge. What is it? He asked. She sighed and then launched into it. Remember that little sexual fantasy confession? I couldn't forget it if I wanted to. Okay, well, I think it's just been a really long time since well, and I think it's making me a little nutty. So maybe we could just you know. Elliot nearly groaned, struggling to keep his sanity at the idea of what Daisy was suggesting. I think I know, but I really don't want to be wrong about this, Daisy, so if you could just spell it out for me. She sighed again, twisting her hands into the sleeves of her sweater. Look, I know you don't want a relationship and that you're not over Leah. He wasn't sure that was true anymore, but he let Daisy keep talking. And I'm definitely not interested in anything serious for obvious reasons. Wait, what obvious reasons? Obtuse. She looked at him like he was being purposefully. Elliot, I told you I can't do this again. Relationships are not for me. At all, right? Ever again? Elliot, I didn't date for 2 years after my divorce from Matthew. I didn't get out of bed for a month after David broke up with me. I am barely hanging on here. I have a sinking business to run. I do not have the energy or the strength to try this again. He swallowed hard. Well, that settled that. He just thought they'd been having so much fun together. And sometimes the way Daisy looked at him, it just seemed like ... Anyway, that's why this is perfect and makes so much sense, Daisy went on. Neither of us wants anything emotionally real, so we can just, be fuck buddies. Elliot nearly choked on his own tongue. I can't do that. Daisy's face fell. Oh shit. Okay. She tucked a piece of hair behind her ear and tried to push past him to get to the door. That's fine. It was just an idea. Forget I ever said anything. She looked so damn hurt. Shit. That's not what I meant. It's really fine, Elliot. Let's just go. She tried again to get past him, but he grabbed her arm and held her still. Daisy, look at me. When she looked up, her expression was so devastated, so embarrassed that Elliot couldn't stand it. You're beyond sexy. She rolled her eyes. Okay, Elliot. I don't need your pity. Compliments. It's not pity. I want you, Daisy. You just said you didn't. It's fine. Let's just go, please. He almost let her go. He should have, for his own good. He knew if things got physical between him and Daisy, he'd be lost. He'd be all in. And after what Daisy just told him, he knew he'd be the only one. But he couldn't leave her looking like that. He couldn't leave her thinking she was anything less than the most beautiful woman he'd ever met, that he'd give anything to have her, to touch her, to fuck her. I mean it. He turned her so her back was against the door, his hand on her hip. Her eyes widened. And if I wasn't afraid of falling in love with you, I'd show you just how much. You can't fall in love with me, she whispered as he bent his head and kissed her neck. I know. He buried his face in her hair, kissing behind her ear, along her throat. She gasped, pressing against him. But I need you to know how badly I want you. He twined his fingers with hers and brought her hand to where his cock was straining embarrassingly hard at the front of his pants. Jesus, she hissed. I need you to know how sexy you are, how your body drives me crazy, how I haven't stopped thinking about it since I saw you dancing at Jeannie's wedding. Daisy whimpered, her hand moving on its own now, pressing against him, feeling the shape of him through his pants. He nearly blacked out at the pleasure of it, the not dash enough dash but dash too dash much dashness of it. Do you believe me now? He asked, his mouth still working its way down her neck, over her collarbones to the other side. He didn't know what he was doing, didn't know why his mouth was still on her skin, why he was practically thrusting against her hand, when he knew how this ended. But it had been so damn long since he'd been touched. And he refused to let Daisy think she wasn't desirable, to think she wasn't wanted, even if it killed him later. She squeezed a little around him, and Elliot grabbed her wrist, moving her hand above her head instead of on his dick. He wasn't going to survive another second if she left it there. He had her pinned against the door now, one hand holding her wrist above her head, and the other gripping her hip. She was staring up at him, dazed, her pretty lips hanging open in surprise. A small smile crept over her face. "Okay, I believe you," he groaned in relief, his mouth back on her neck, her hips pressing against his. "So we can do this?" she asked, her voice breathy and tight. "We can do this without feelings?" He could not do this without feelings. But he certainly wasn't going to walk away now. "Don't worry," he told her instead. "I know what this is. I get it." He moved his hand from her hips, skating across her stomach. He wasn't going to leave Daisy wanting. She needed something from him, and he would give it to her. He'd pick up the pieces later. He unbuttoned the black jeans she'd put on for their night out with one hand, eliciting a surprised gasp from Daisy. He smiled against the skin on her throat, still not kissing her lips. Kissing would make this something else entirely, something intimate and real. And Elliot was barely surviving this as it was. He slid his hand down her pants. Daisy whimpered. "I've got you," he said, pushing into her underwear, and she was so wet. His knees nearly buckled. He squeezed his eyes shut. "Elliot," she rasped. And that was it. That was all he could take. His fingers found her clit, and Daisy rolled her hips toward him. "God, yes," she said. And he circled his fingers right there, right on the spot that made her gasp those words against him. He still held her hand above their heads, but her other arm was wrapped around his back, her nails digging in as she panted his name. This was too much, too much. He wasn't going to survive it. Daisy's body against his, her mouth on his neck now, her whimpers and moans. But he was determined. He would give her this, and then he would back off. He would explain why he couldn't go any further. He would protect himself. Daisy's breath quickened, coming in short little bursts. "Elliot, Elliot, Elliot," she crooned, rocking against his hand until she stilled, her whole body tense and shaking. She met his gaze, her eyes wild. And then she fell apart, her orgasm breaking over her until she was trembling, and Elliot lowered her hand, holding her up instead as she shook against him. They stayed like that for a while, too long probably. Elliot wrapping both arms around her. "That was really, really good," she said, talking into his shoulder instead of to his face. "I'm glad. What about you?" "I'm okay." He was not okay. He was completely wrecked, but doing anything else with Daisy would only make that worse. "Still afraid of falling in love with me?" she asked, not lifting her head. "Something like that, yeah. I'm not good at doing this. Without feelings. You're a rare breed. I've been told." She pulled away and looked up at him. "So, we probably shouldn't, right? I don't think I can be your fuck buddy," she asked, the teasing smile working its way back onto her lips. At least she wasn't upset with him. "Sorry." She gave a little shrug. "It's probably for the best." "Agreed. And I don't think you have feelings for me anyway." "Elliot." "Oh really? I mean besides the obvious pants feelings." He adjusted himself. The pants feelings hadn't exactly gone away yet. "Why do you say that?" "You're just repeating what happened with your ex-wife. I was the first woman who asked you out. Even if it was for pretend." He stood there, slightly stunned by that observation. She was right. It was what he'd been afraid of since he met her. But to have Daisy call him out on it, it was like being splashed with cold water. Leah was the first girl who'd asked him out in college, and he'd hung on to her for dear life. And now here he was, developing feelings for the first woman who he'd spent any time with since the divorce. And the worst part was Daisy knew. She knew what was happening even if he wanted to ignore it. "As your friend," Daisy went on, "I can't let you repeat your mistakes. Just like I'm not going to repeat mine." She rebuttoned her pants and smoothed down her shirt. "All business again. Now, should we go listen to our friends and neighbors? Butcher our favorite songs?" She grabbed her purse from the bed while Elliot struggled to process everything she'd just said. Was she right? Maybe a few weeks ago he would have agreed, but now he refused to think of Daisy as a mistake. Nothing that happened with Daisy felt anything like it had with Leah. Elliot's feelings for Daisy felt brand new. But Daisy wasn't ready to hear that. Not yet. Sure, he said, taking her hand. They were still fake dating after all. He still got to hold her hand. For now anyway. Let's go.